Welcome to the Crimson Dossier. Every case has a file. Not every file has answers. She brought her son children to eat. Inside Russia's most prolific cannibal case, a plumber climbs to the 9th floor of an apartment block in Novokuznetsk. October 1996. The radiators are cold, and tenants are complaining. He knocks on the last door. A man's voice screams from inside. "I'm mentally ill. My mother locked me in here." The plumber doesn't know it yet, but behind that door is a girl bleeding out on the floor. And 40 sets of stolen jewelry. And 80 sets of blood-stained clothing. And a refrigerator that no one wants to open. This is the story of Alexander Spesivtsev, a man Russian media would call the Siberian Ripper. In a single year, he killed and ate at least 19 people. And the person who brought him most of his victims, who cooked their remains, who lied to police on his behalf, was his own mother. Alexander was born in 1970 in Novokuznetsk, an industrial city in southwestern Siberia. His father drank heavily and was rarely home. His mother, Lyudmila, gave birth to him at home and didn't even register his birth for 2 years. She decided early on that her son was fragile, weak, and emotionally vulnerable, was how she put it, and she built her entire life around protecting him from consequences. By childhood, Alexander was already showing signs of something wrong. He scrawled pro-Hitler graffiti in the stairwell. He jammed his neighbors' locks with matches. He set fire to elevator buttons. The neighbors complained constantly. Lyudmila's answer was always the same. Her son was innocent, and everyone else was lying. By age 14, old enough in Russia to face criminal charges, he graduated from vandalism to theft. When he was caught stealing electronics from his school, the caseworker recommended he be sent to a special reform school. Lyudmila intervened. She'd worked in school administration for years and knew exactly how to bury a case in paperwork. She buried this one too. There was something else in that household that mattered later. Lyudmila often brought home case files from her work, real criminal investigations, complete with crime scene photos. And young Alexander loved looking at them. He told investigators, years afterward, that those photographs of murder victims interested him more than books, more than television. The first kill. In 1988, Alexander was arrested for a string of thefts. A psychiatric evaluation diagnosed him with schizophrenia, and instead of prison, he was sent to a psychiatric hospital. The security there was lax. By March 1989, he'd simply walked out. No one came looking for him. He moved back into his mother's apartment and resumed his life as if nothing had happened. In 1991, he started seeing a 17-year-old girl named Zhenya Guselnikova. Within months, she tried to break things off. He'd become controlling and abusive. In May 1991, with his mother and sister conveniently away to give the young couple privacy, Spesivtsev brought Zhenya to the apartment and held her captive for nearly a month. The neighbors heard screaming. They'd long since learned to ignore anything coming from that apartment. Zhenya's parents grew worried when she didn't come home. But Spesivtsev told them she decided to move in with him, that they were testing the relationship. It took a full month before her parents went to police and insisted on checking the apartment together. No one answered the door. Neighbors described the screaming they'd heard. Police broke it down. Inside, they found Zhenya, emaciated, covered in sores, barely breathing. Spesivtsev was asleep beside her. She died in the hospital. And here's where the pattern that would define the next 5 years was set. Despite overwhelming evidence, Spesivtsev didn't go to prison. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia again, sent to a specialized clinic in Oriel, and released in late 1995. Officially cured in June 1996. Fragments of children's bodies began washing up along the Aba River. DNA testing in 1990s Russia was expensive and unreliable, but investigators managed to determine something horrifying. The remains belonged to at least 15 children and teenagers. Moscow sent forensic specialists. Prosecutors arrived from the federal level. Detectives from the Interior Ministry's Major Crimes Unit took over the investigation, while local police did the grinding groundwork. Checking every person with a criminal record, every patient with a history of psychiatric hospitalization in the area. They considered organ trafficking rings. They considered snuff film production. But the leading theory, from early on, was a serial killer. And the trail should have led straight to Spesivtsev's door, except for one bureaucratic failure. When his clinic in Oriel discharged him in 1995, no one informed local police or psychiatric services in Novokuznetsk. On paper, Alexander Spesivtsev was still a patient in a hospital 5,000 kilometers away. While police searched for a phantom, the real killer was still active, and in June 1996 alone, he murdered 4 more people, 2 girls, a woman in her 40s, and a man in his 30s. 2 of those victims were never identified. All were dismembered. From each one, Spesivtsev cut prime cuts of meat, which he ate himself and fed to his dog, a Newfoundland. In July, a 19-year-old woman died in his apartment. In August, 2 12-year-old girls. And in September 1996, his final victims, 3 girls, ages 13 to 15, were brought to him by an elderly woman who asked for help opening a stuck door. That elderly woman was Lyudmila Spesivtseva, her son's own mother, recruiting his last victims. One of those 3 girls survived long enough to testify, and her account is one of the most harrowing pieces of testimony in Russian criminal history. She and her 2 friends, Olya, 15, and Zhenya and Nastya, both 13, were patients at a local hospital, allowed to take walks outside. An elderly woman approached them near a kiosk, claiming she'd locked herself out of her apartment and asking for help. They followed her up to the 9th floor. A man answered the door, with a large black Newfoundland beside him. He introduced himself as Andrei. Inside, a woman in her 30s was also present, Spesivtsev's sister. He herded the 3 girls into a bedroom and told them to wait. Someone needed to verify who they were, he said, and if it wasn't them, he'd let them go. Nastya whispered a plan to one of the other girls. Grab the bottle by the bed, hit him, and run. When Andrei came back in and one of the girls kept begging to be released, he produced a syringe and grabbed her arm, telling her to tighten it like she was preparing for an injection. That's when Nastya struck him with the bottle. She missed his head, hitting his shoulder instead. He pulled a knife and stabbed her in the stomach, then 3 more times in the chest. As she collapsed, he grabbed a pair of tights and began strangling her. His grandmother, Lyudmila, walked in and asked what he was doing. He told her to leave, or she'd be next. What followed is almost impossible to summarize without diminishing it. The surviving girl described being fed soup made from Nastya's remains. She described Lyudmila taking pieces of the bodies away in a bag. She described being handcuffed in the bathtub between assaults. She described performing CPR on her friend Zhenya for nearly an hour after Spesivtsev beat her unconscious and failing to save her. Spesivtsev kept Zhenya's body in the apartment for 3 days, telling the surviving girl he wanted her soul to pass on first. Then he forced the girl to dismember her friend's remains. The day after giving this testimony to investigators, Olya, the 3rd girl, died in the hospital from her injuries. It was the cold radiators that finally ended it. A routine heating complaint, a plumber working his way up 9 floors, knocking on doors, and a man inside who, when he heard the knock, didn't open the door. He screamed that he was mentally ill and that his mother had locked him in. The neighbors had heard enough rumors about bodies in the area. They called police. Officers broke down the door. Inside, the smell of decomposition. Total chaos. Jewelry belonging to dozens of different people. Old Polaroid photographs Spesivtsev had taken of his victims before killing them. And on the floor of one room, barely alive, the surviving girl, who would die of complications 3 days later, but not before giving her testimony. Spesivtsev himself escaped over the fire escape to the roof while police were still inside. He came back to the building 2 days later and was arrested on the spot. Investigators found 82 sets of bloodstained clothing in that apartment, belonging to different people, and 40 sets of jewelry. The math doesn't add up to 19 victims. It suggests the real number was almost certainly higher. A new psychiatric evaluation reached a careful conclusion. Spesivtsev had mental health issues, but he was legally sane at the time of the murders, capable of understanding what he did in choosing to do it. Lyudmila Spesivtseva never fully admitted her role. "I'll answer for the 4 buckets of remains," she told investigators. "I don't know anything about the rest." She was convicted as an accomplice in 3 murders and sentenced to 13 years. She was released in 2008 and moved with her daughter to a small town in the Kuzbas region, where, as far as public records show, she still lives. Spesivtsev's sister, Nadezhda, was never convicted. Prosecutors couldn't prove she'd helped cover up the crimes, despite being present during at least one of the murders. And Alexander Spesivtsev himself? He's still alive, still in indefinite psychiatric detention in a special regime clinic in Volgograd Oblast. The apartment in Novokuznetsk, the one with the cold radiators, the one where at least 19 people died, is still legally his. There's an open court case against him now for unpaid utility bills. What's striking about this case isn't just its scale, though 19 confirmed victims makes Spesivtsev one of the most prolific killers in Russian history. It's the chain of small failures that let it happen, a discharge form that was never filed, neighbors who'd learned not to ask questions, a justice system that kept finding reasons to send a violent man home instead of to prison. And at the center of it, a mother who spent 30 years protecting her son from every consequence, right up until the consequences were children's bodies in a river. If you want to understand how systems fail, sometimes you have to look at the people standing in the gaps. We'll see you in the next one.